It's been a year and a half since sanctions against Iran were lifted after the Iran nuclear deal. But the wave of investment that was supposed to follow has not materialized. Government said it needed around $50 billion a year in foreign investment to reach a target of 8% growth, but only $1 to $2 billion worth of deals have been finalized.
We are living in a difficult situation. Politicians just give some statistics and they say we have economic development, but we cannot really see it in our daily lives. It's not real, it's just a virtual number.
Since the end of those sanctions, Iran has ramped up its oil production far higher than pre-sanction levels. So far this year, it's produced more than 4.2 million barrels per day. That's thanks to Tehran's exemption from OPEC's deal to restrict output in other major oil-producing countries. But Iran's non-oil sectors are struggling. Attempts to diversify the economy away from oil have put a strain on the country's banking system. A recent survey by the World Economic Forum suggests access to finance is the biggest hurdle to doing business in Iran, and that hurts the prospect of creating new jobs. More than 10% of Iran's almost 81 million people are unemployed. Youth unemployment is at around 27%, and at 44%, it's even worse among young women. Literacy levels, however, are higher among females than males, and women voters in Tehran are hoping Iran's new president will improve their quality of life.
I expect the new president to follow the same policies of the past 4 years and to improve it and complete what the former administration embarked on and fulfill their promises.
The IMF projects that economic growth will slow to 3.3% this year and says Iran has a long way to go before it can fully tap its investment and trade potential. And the Iranian people hope this new presidential term will set the country on the right course for economic prosperity. Adefemi Akinsanya, TRT World.
Well, for more on what these elections mean for the future of Iran's economy, Nazanin Soroush joins us now from Washington, D.C. Nazanin, let me ask you about this election. Does it matter to the outcome of the Iranian economy, or are there deeply entrenched issues which won't change no matter who's in charge?
Hi, thanks for having me. There are two main issues that will affect the Iranian economy going forward. One of them has to do with the outlook for sanctions coming from the U.S. primarily over the coming year and the coming years. And the other is internally from the Iranian decision makers and whether they're able to implement the structural reforms that are necessary for economic growth within Iran. Now, the outcome of the elections will have a relatively important impact on the Trump administration's sanctions policy towards Iran. Should a hardline cleric, Ebrahim Raisi, get elected in this election, this will mean that Iran is less flexible, and this will increase the risk of the nuclear agreement collapsing over the coming years. And this will mean a snapback of nuclear sanctions on Iran and obviously a return to Iran pre-sanctions relief economic situation there. Internally within Iran, though, what's happening is that there is an ascendance of the revolutionaries, the powerful IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's clerical establishment, and the supreme leader. These guys have expanded their influence in the economy and essentially are obstructing any measures by even the Rouhani administration to provide the structural reforms that are needed in the Iranian economy.
Let's just pick that apart for a moment, Nazanin, for those of our viewers who are not familiar with the Revolutionary Guard. Just explain why they're so important, such powerful organization, and why they stand in the way of moving Iran's economy forward.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is Iran's ideological army that is tasked with safeguarding the Islamic Revolution and essentially with tasked with the survival of the Islamic Republic. Over the years, particularly because they were the ones that came forward to secure Iran during the Iran-Iraq War, These guys were rewarded with big chunks of the Iranian economy, initially in the construction sector with large-scale infrastructure contracts. But once the sanctions were imposed on Iran, the IRGC started to fill in the gap that was left by foreign companies leaving Iran. And this was in the hydrocarbon oil sector as well as in many other sectors across the economy. And they're very much wary that any sort of foreign investment will challenge their economic interests. Notably, it is important to note that the IRGC itself is under US and EU sanctions, so it can't really benefit directly from sanctions relief. And so it is essentially holding the economy hostage by preventing from other investors coming in.
Nazanin, you make a very good point. Cannot move forward really until those changes are made on the ground level. Nazanin Soroush, thank you so much for joining us in Washington, D.C. tonight.